Hi everyone, it's Chenzo from RealityArtPod, here to rank the Big Brother 27 players based on their performance in the game as of the end of Week 2's Thursday night eviction episode. Before I dive in, I put a link to my BB27 playlist for all my recaps and rankings. If you like the content, consider liking and subscribing. You can watch along with me and support the channel by using my link to try Paramount Plus for free. This week, we saw Jimmy's HOH, with house targets winning powers and saving themselves, leading to the eviction of Amy. As of the end of Thursday's show, we don't know who won the third HOH. Firstly, we lost Amy here, who last week I put ninth. I was feeling good about her after she survived that vote with so much support, but she continued to just be friends with Rachel and not give much back to the people who voted to keep her, and her not winning competitions just left her as someone the group wasn't willing to stick their necks out for anymore. But I don't think she should have been on the block this week at all with Jimmy as HOH. Overall, her passive gameplay led to her being edged out of the game. But let's get to the rankings. In 15th, I have Keanu, who last week was 16th. He came into this week the house target. His enemy wins HOH, and he has nothing to say for himself. He's easily nominated by Jimmy, and he would have been nominated by most of the other players too. He won the power. I can't give anyone too much credit for this blackout competition because it was so easy and random, but he didn't keep it secret or leverage it in any way. At least he had the common sense to use the power. He got his veto, though the fact that he himself was eliminated by false start is seriously embarrassing if your life is on the line, my guy. So he gets safety, and he could have used the safety to rebuild, but no. He keeps fighting with Rachel, which always just makes him look bad. On top of all of this, he continues to repeatedly, in full earnest, tell everyone he thinks he's running the game, and that he controlled Jimmy's HOH. He's not self-aware, and he keeps touching Ava, which is making her uncomfortable. And every time Ava brings this up, the feed's cut off, which is a very icky way the show handles things. With all that said, while I think he's the worst player, the game is still going on around him in a way that the Zach, Lauren, Katherine side may not end up nominating Keanu and Kelly this week, and he could get put on the back burner for a while, but because he's not liked or respected, and will, barring a big realization on his part, not be able to win this season, he's 15th. In 14th, I have Kelly, who last week was 15th. She just saved herself from the blockbuster competition in a situation where she was going home against either nominee. Then she voted wrong, but she does at least try to rally around the other wrong voters. But she was obviously going on the block when Jimmy won. Some of the men like her, but the girls don't like her, but she doesn't put that much effort in with the other women as well, often calling them bitches behind their back, so she's not innocent in that either. Had she not won her power, she was going home. But she did win it and saved herself. She's decently social in the house, and a bit of a shit stirrer, which works against her, but is also kind of what she should be doing right now to get herself out of this pickle, but she also got herself into this pickle in the first place. In 13th, I have Riley, who was 12th. His saving grace from last week was switching his vote to keep Amy, but the girls still wanted him up on the block as a replacement nominee this week. He has some relationships with Jimmy that saved him, but had there been another HOH from that group, he would have been on the block. Jimmy should have nominated him, and Riley stays obsessed with Katherine, going down with her ship because a lot of people will nominate them both. He's told Katherine he's gonna gun for the veto if they're nominated and use it on her, and you know what? I think he'll do just that, and I'd love to see it. His head isn't in the game, he doesn't really seem to care, and I'm not hopeful he ever will. In 12th, I have Katherine, who last week was 5th. She cozied up to Jimmy all week, stayed quiet, but the other players are annoyed by her lack of game talk. The other girls especially want her out, so she's become a target for half the house. But she's not a loner, she has allies. There's just a bit of heat on her. What I find most questionable is she seemed so locked in with the girls week 1. She committed her vote to Amy when she could have flipped with Lauren and kept Zay, but they decided not to, but then she didn't try with the women at all after that vote. She truly might as well have voted the other way, and she'd be the queen bee in the majority group now. With all that said, I have to put her above the person who is willing to lay down their life for her for that very reason. In 11th, I have Ashley, who was 10th. She survived the block last week by winning the veto. I was hopeful she would have gained some ground, and you know what? She was the only nominee from last week to not be nominated again. That's saying something. That came from her making game bonds in the house, and the other players getting over the showergate situation, but she's consistently doing inconsiderate things, like putting the Brita filter in the fridge empty, which is actually diabolical behavior. Who does that? And insulting people to their face, making sly comments about things other people are doing, the other girls' bodies, and many of the players are set to nominate her for her general behavior around the house. While she's someone who could go on the block, she has the proven ability to save herself, and she's in some alliances that could see her skirting by for a while. In 10th, I have Jimmy, who was 7th. He won this HOH when he probably didn't need to, especially after winning a competition last week and having handed Vince's HOH. He quickly goes on an investigation about the powers, threatening people who lied to him to go to Block City. His ally Mickey doesn't tell him about the power, which was a massive escalation in the deterioration of the Triple Threat Alliance. He nominates Kelly, Keanu, and Adrien, which are good, rational nominations. Then he keeps hanging out in HOH with Lauren and Katherine, which makes him sketchy to Triple Threat. And when he doesn't take his alliance into account and nominates Will, he further drives a wedge between he and Triple Threat. Overall, I feel like this week ended up really messy for him. He nominated 5 people, and after all that, he evicts Amy, which really is a weenie move. Many people are starting to want him out, and if there's an unlucky HOH win, his own allies are ready to throw him right under the bus. With all that said, he still does have relationships, is social enough, good enough at competitions, and the others seem to give him a lot of grace when he's being bad. I think he could be fine despite playing so messy. In a pretty big drop, in ninth, I have Morgan, who last week was first. This entire week, she was buzzing in Jimmy's ear, trying to influence his nominations, but she lost influence with him, and this week went exactly how she didn't want it to go. She was fighting hard to save Amy until the last day, pushing and pushing, but she doesn't get her way, which shows that she's not as persuasive as we or she thinks. Add on to that, the other players are now onto her constant, intense gaming. The other side of the house want her on the block, and she's pretty much the last person in this section of players I think are likely nominees for the week, depending on the HOH. But I still have a lot of faith that she could win competitions to save herself, but she needs to win some power or really work on her bonds with the other side of the house. In 8th, I have Rachel, who was 11th last week. I'm impressed with her ability to integrate into the group despite being a logical target. She wasn't even considered by Jimmy to go on the block, which is payoff from the time she spent investing into that relationship. She spends a great deal of the week fighting with Keanu, which is really funny and entertaining. And surprisingly, these fights make him look bad, but none of the other house guests mind that Rachel's involved because they all don't like Keanu, which I think makes them appreciate Rachel a little bit more. She was also beefing with Ashley about the bathroom. Ashley's another person who annoys a lot of the other players, so she's picking fights with the right people. She works hard to protect Amy, showing the group that she's loyal, and while Amy ends up going home, it wasn't intended as a shot from the other players to knock Rachel down a peg, but losing Amy is actually positive for Rachel. Their relationship was an anchor dragging both of them down, and now they can feel like they've neutralized Rachel a little bit. I feel okay about her chances of getting to jury, but I worry that she's not in many people's endgames. She could really use an HOH and need some new real alliances fast. In 7th, I have Adrien, who was 14th last week after voting wrong, and through that, he was in a small pool of people to be nominated. A lot of what happened to him this week was repercussions from his vote last week, so I'm not going to re-knock him for that. He takes being nominated on the chin and is relatively quiet throughout the week, but he turned up the heat on his campaign when the nominations were officially set, which is smart. While I saw some bright spots for him this week, I still feel like he's playing a bit too passively. I wish we could hear him talk more about his game. Like, is he trying to recreate Dan's story from BB10, showing he's a nice, honest player in the beginning to win everyone over? If he articulated that, I would celebrate him even more, but he's not owning anything and is just getting railroaded a bit. He pulled through and saved himself, and now that it's all said and done, he's moved past the blowback of voting wrong and is seen as a lovable angel by the others who they want to keep around. Being on the block motivated him to work on his game relationships and talk strategy with people, which makes me feel like he's on an upswing for now. In 6th, I have Will, who last week was 8th after having good social game, but a bad voting decision. He comes into this week being honest about his vote, but having a conflict with Keanu, who accused him of lying about the vote, and despite continuing to have good social game, he ends up being nominated as a pawn. He may still have been nominated even if he voted correctly in the previous round. He's being taken more seriously as a player. People need his vote now. He needs to not do what Amy did. He should show the players who fought hardest to keep him that he's an asset to their game. We see that he has supporters, but he needs to find his footing in the strategy and get some power. In 5th, I have Lauren, who last week was 6th. She cozies right up to the HOH again, and everyone notices, but she continues to try to keep a low profile, and while others prefer her over Katherine, she's on the block in a lot of people's HOH. She was wishy-washy about her vote again, but I have her higher up because she's in the Bond Alliance, she has a good enough head on her shoulders, and I think she likely survives the block if she's nominated on a Thursday with the type of people that she's next to. I really want to see her get more active in the game, but it's not horrible so far. In 4th, I have Mickey, who last week was 3rd. I want to preface this by saying I think she's a great player in general, especially socially, but this wasn't a great week for her. She wins her secret power early in the week and is safe with Jimmy as HOH, but as the week goes on, she doesn't have influence in Jimmy's nominations. She won the secret power, which in my opinion is the best power of the three. She was acting in the diary room like she was being so discreet when she won, but she was jumping up and down and punching the air. I get that she was being quiet, but she could have been caught by dancing into someone. Everyone thinks she has the power, and she doesn't know that everyone thinks that, which could make her power either useless or something that she'll use to try to steal from the HOH. And when she does that and she's caught, won't she be an instant target for that person and the house? She and Morgan should have already started trying to cause confusion about the power, maybe by telling someone that Morgan had it and plan a really impressive con, but otherwise this power is most likely bad for her. Also, Amy leaving this week is bad for her game, so while I think she's in good standing, there are so many red flags that she needs to become aware of. In 3rd, I have Vince, who was 13th last week, where his HOH felt like a flop, but he got really lucky with his buddy Jimmy winning HOH, meaning he wouldn't be nominated, and didn't get any blowback from his HOH, exactly as he was hoping. He'd made a few close bonds on both sides of the house during his HOH week that are still working for him, mainly his bonds with the guys and the Bond Alliance, that while not a strong alliance yet, seems to be the strongest group in the house right now. Nobody's talking about targeting him, and he's a calming force in the house that they all seem to appreciate. As an added bonus for him, Amy going home means 2 of his 4 nominations are out of the game, which is good for him. In 2nd, I'm putting Ava, who last week was 2nd as well. She came into this week, teamed up with both sides. She voted correctly, but voted against her alliance, but they didn't care. This week, the house divides became more clear, but everyone loves Ava, and they see her as a stable figure in the game. Many have her in their endgame plans, feeling like they could beat her in competitions, but there's already talk that they can't beat Ava in a final 2. She's in the bond, which is great great for her, and while I'm tempted to put her in first for being in this great middle position, I'd still like to see her do something aggressive in the game that she can claim for herself. Getting to first, I'm going to start with 1C. It'll make sense. As 1C, I have Zach, who last week was fourth. Hear me out. Zach isn't running the game by any means, but he's in a lot of circles and is beloved. He voted wrong last week and was the only person who voted wrong not to hit the block. Why? Because he's beloved. He continues to have his power and hasn't told anyone, which is very important and very smart. He's in such a great spot. Think about the chain of events that would have to happen for Zach to be evicted. He'd have to have someone be brave enough to nominate him, play in the veto and lose, or be backdoored, then play his power, have someone else win HOH, nominate him again, and he still would have to lose the blockbuster and a vote. He not only has one bonus life, he has like 9 lives, and his power lasts until jury, which is like another 5 weeks. He'd actually be lucky if he gets to use the power, because that would increase his win equity. But overall, he's in a spot where he would have to do something really foolish to get evicted, and the fact that he hasn't told anyone about the power shows he is not a fool. In 1B, I have Casey. Casey came in with one goal, to win the veto. She won the veto and ate that. She played an excellent game this week. But in 1A, the best player of the week, I have high praise for Felicia, who nailed her acting this week. She single-handedly eliminated Jimmy and Keanu from the competition. I was crying laughing at her saying crazy things about the creeper. I'm saying it now, and I'll say it again. We need Felicia back on Big Brother while she can still physically hang on a wall. Her eliminating strong players from the competition paved the way for Casey to win the veto. And for that reason, Felicia is the player of the week because she ate and left no crumbs. So those are my rankings for this week. Let me know what you think in the comments and what are your rankings. If you like this video, consider liking and subscribing. I'll be back Sunday to recap the nominations episode. Until next time, you know where to find me. Bye.